Welcome to another episode of Fuck Your Job. I'm Ron Worley.
And I'm Josh Fullenweider, and we're here to rock your...
All right, welcome everybody to Fuck Your Job. This is our first official episode, right, Josh?
First official.
Yep, and we decided today that we're going to talk about something simple. Employees
And
versus entrepreneurs.
Yep.
And so, Josh, what do you think
Well,
is the biggest difference there?
I know for me, the biggest difference is mindset. One of my old college professors, who he owned a bank, so I respect him quite a bit, but he always told us that you should always think like an entrepreneur, especially if you're just an employee. He said you should take ownership of what you're doing, and think of the company as if you owned it, and what would you like to see done if you owned it.
Yeah.
For me, I see a lot with employees where they're like, hey, I'm here for a paycheck. This job lets me buy a house, puts food on the table. I'm here, I do this, you give me money, and I'm done.
Right.
And
Nothing worse than somebody clocking in and clocking out.
Yeah. What about you? You've been an entrepreneur a lot longer. And
I've been both a lot. I was an employee to figure out what the hell I didn't want to do. I figured out I don't want to be anything to do with cement or trash.
Okay.
But as an entrepreneur, I think you're right. It's a frame of mind. It's a way of living as well. I think for me it was changing my mindset to that unlimited income potential that makes me get up every day.
Okay. And you, in your book that's coming up, you talk a little bit about employee versus entrepreneur, don't you?
I do. Actually, it's a big deal because we need both in the world.
Oh yeah.
The entrepreneurs need people to get shit done. Like, that's a thing. And so it's important that we have employees, but we also want our employees to own who they are and the company they work for.
Oh yeah.
It makes them a way better employee. And so in the book I talk about the difference between being a good employee and an entrepreneur. It's all about responsibility as an entrepreneur. You're setting yourself up for failure, and you're setting yourself up for success at the same time.
Okay.
That's the thrill of being an entrepreneur, if you ask me.
Sorry. I'll edit that out, but I didn't realize the timer was going to go off.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry. So, shit. Totally lost my train of thought.
You want me to pick up where I left off?
Yeah, I'll just pick up where you left off. I'll blend that part.
Okay. So really an entrepreneur is a dreamer, and for me that's been my biggest second part of my life. That's been the most fun. What do I want to do next? I actually spend time, Josh, every night on the computer researching things, a lot like you do.
Oh man, I get in trouble for it.
Yeah, taken away from the family?
Well, I get in trouble because every night my wife comes home, I'm like, hey, I found a new business we should start.
Yeah.
And so there was one night last week, she got kind of mad at me, not really mad, but irritated, because the night before she'd been out doing a cookie booth with our daughter, and so I didn't see her at all that night. And I'm like, I had a really good idea that day, and I was like, we should do this. So she gets home the next night. I'm like, hey, today I have two ideas I need to tell you about that we should do. She's like, you got to leave me alone.
Yeah. So what is the difference between you looking those up and then actually making them to fruition? Is it time, money? What's the...
A little of both. Time is the biggest factor, and that's why I see why you need to hire people and have good employees. I can do research and everything like that, but I'm sure you get it. Writing a book, working on a YouTube podcast series, owning a business, or in my case, starting up a business, and it just takes time. And I can't outsource the idea making part. I can't outsource the evaluation whether that deal or business is going to be right for me.
Right.
but I'm not willing to give up other things yet or pay other people for them yet. But for me, that's the entrepreneur mindset is, what are the other businesses ideas? So.
Well, and I think a huge way to allow yourself to be an entrepreneur is to feel confident in the decisions that you make. So when you're researching, you're not only researching how-tos, but how can I fail?
Mm-hmm.
What's going to cause me to fail? And is that failure enough of a risk for me to not do it?
Right.
And that's where I get tied up. Yeah, that'd be great. You can make money on this, and you can pinch a penny out of anything. And then you think about it. Oh, but if it fails, I lost $300,000. Or
Yeah.
if it fails, my wife's going to leave me.
Yeah, and that gets to be a big thing.
Yeah, it does.
So, let me ask you, Ron. You know, we've talked a little bit about what makes kind of a good entrepreneur, but what do you think makes a good employee?
You know, this is going to sound bad, but a good yes man is always good to have. I'm always looking for someone who's, what makes me really hire somebody is if they fit in with my values of the company, but also if they're willing to be an asset to what I'm trying to do. The direction of our company. That's why it's so important to have a company have direction and values, is because if an employee can see that direction and that value that you're headed towards, then they can jump on board and help you get there.
Okay.
And so for me, it's all about, you know, I need my left-hand man.
Mm-hmm.
Everywhere I go, that person's going to help me build the company.
Yeah. So we're really talking about almost the same mindset, because I talked a little bit about, you know, as an entrepreneur, you take ownership of things, but you're saying yes man, but really it's somebody who has the same values and jumps on board and takes ownership of what is going on already.
Absolutely.
So I mean,
even if they're the smallest fish in the sea,
yeah,
the littlest peon in the company, if they own that position and they just say yes, I'll do it,
mm-hmm.
that's huge.
Yeah.
I'm ready to move them up at that point.
Oh yeah.
Give them a raise if nothing else.
Sometimes that little position is very critical, and
Right, it's all about titles and money, one or the other. Power
Yeah.
and money, right?
So, but I guess if somebody comes to you, this might just be asking it in a different way. If somebody comes to you and they don't want to be an entrepreneur,
Mm-hmm.
they're like, you know, I've tried it, or that's just not my style. I where I'm at, I want a steady paycheck.
Yeah.
What can they take out of this that would help them succeed in an employee role?
Yeah, so, you know, I think, again, it's more about the direction of the company. Make sure that they're a fit for the company long term. That this isn't just a JOB, a just above broke job.
Just over broke.
Just over broke. Above is A.
Yeah, my wife told me last time that you said that, and she's like, that's a jab, not a job.
Okay, I got that wrong. Job. It's not my saying anyway, so now I don't have to quote anybody.
Yeah, she literally paused it and said, right here. He says it right here.
Thanks, Rebecca.
Sorry.
So the difference between being an employee who cares about their job and an employee is just looking for a paycheck is magnificent. I honestly have had both,
Mm-hmm.
and you know right away when they come in if they're just there to collect a paycheck. They don't care about anything. Even if, again, if you're the smallest man on the totem pole, if you care about your job,
Mm-hmm.
you're willing to do anything to keep that job and
Mm-hmm.
to follow the company's values, you're going to rise up quickly. And I think that's the key, especially if you're talking about long term
Mm-hmm.
and you want to retire there, you better get on board.
Okay. So as the owner of the company,
Mhm.
how do you create the culture, foster the relationship with the people, and bring in the right people
A lot of
to...
fucking questions, man.
Yeah. We don't have enough time for this, but try, I guess.
Okay, so you know what? For us, it starts right when in the interview process.
Mhm.
I'll do silly things like ask them what family means to them. Family is one of my biggest values and something we put into every single company. We like our employees to feel like family. Not only do they work harder for you, but they're less likely to leave you and to be more loyal they feel like family. So that's one of the first questions we ask is, what does family mean to you? I'll ask them about their parents and how they were raised. Aaron likes to ask them what other people would say about them if they weren't around. And, it's always a fib.
Yeah.
They're that whole reverse the question and make it a positive thing. I try to flip that up on its head. I want to see the real person.
Yeah.
Once they're in the company, you've got practice what you preach. So once they're in, they're all in. There's no, I don't hold back. I use my language is what it is, and we start talking about the direction of the company. And I try to be on a conversational level with them.
So you're not talking down to them and dictating?
No, more about teaching and coaching. And,
okay.
As you know, that's just like where I get off. I love to coach and teach and help people, and if I can help them succeed. In fact, some of our stores have managers have moved on to be doctors and lawyers, and
that's great.
Yeah, and it was about, and we've got our buddy Thad used to ask me every day. Every day we would sit down and talk about being an entrepreneur, and right now he's one of the most successful men I know, and so I take great pride in that his direction in his life was actually following my direction in my life at the same time. Try to align those together if you can.
Have you ever had somebody come in and they're a just over broke personality, and through coaching they've graduated to that better mentality, that wanting to succeed and excel, even if it's just as an employee, but doing something more?
Yeah, I think so. It's more likely that it's not. There's also not a lot of time to repair somebody's psyche or their trauma in their childhood and things like that. There's a lot of reasons why people come in broken like that. But we do try to help everybody, and there's a couple of success stories where they moved on and did other jobs that paid better. And I've got an employee now that's moving on to a new job. She just put in her notice, and we're happy for her that she, I'm always a stepping stone. Right here. You better be off to doing bigger and better things, because you're living my dream right now, not your own.
We don't own tech companies where we're paying people $120,000 a year. I mean, a lot of our employees are minimum wage or just over minimum wage, so you can't expect those people to be with you forever.
No. In fact, I think a good employee will last about a year and a half for us.
But they're growing. You want them to come here, learn this, do a good job here, and then you're going to get to a point where you've outgrown this job, and then it's time for you to move to the next one.
If you've done a good job as an entrepreneur, as the owner of the business, they're doing that. That's your job.
Yeah. On the reverse side of that, do you ever get somebody growth-minded, or you thought was growth-minded, come in, and then a few months down the road they seem broken and not wanting to do it? And what do you think caused that, or was it just a lie from the beginning?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of dreamers. There's very little doers. And that's why being an entrepreneur is so difficult, because the action items that it takes is, from dreaming it to doing it, is so much. Aside from the money aspect. But I've seen a lot of people come in and they're big dreamers and they have great dreams, and you think, oh my gosh, they're going to grow with this company and this is going to happen, and pretty soon they get, their dreams can't become reality. Even as simple as starting as an employee and wanting to move up to a manager, and they can't move up because the manager hasn't quit or been fired or died yet, and so they can't move into that role, and so they quit and they move on. A lot of people see their dreams squashed when they can't come up with the money as well. And I try not to be that person that squashes their dreams, but reality is a motherfucker. So.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I did that all the time in banking. People come in, I want $100,000 to do this. Okay, well, how much are you contributing to it? Because as a banker, we're in a pretty traditional bank. We didn't want to take on 100% of the risk. We wanted to share the risk with you. So you're coming up with 20-30%. Occasionally people could get by with 10%, but I want you to have skin in the game,
Right.
and that's part of it. Skin in the game. That's an ownership mentality. Is I'm willing to put up my money to see this succeed, not just my time, because a lot of people don't value their time.
Right.
You can tell that because they'll work anywhere. If they don't value their time, they'll do any job for any amount of money. They just want a paycheck.
Yeah.
So.
That's true.
So with this, what is something that somebody could, I guess, take from this and take that first step to being an entrepreneur? What's the
Yeah.
first step to take from here to go to an entrepreneur?
Well, I think it doesn't hurt to have a coach or someone to bounce this stuff off of. Dave from Alaska was a perfect example of somebody who has great ideas, but needs to take that next step. And for a lot of people, they get hemmed up with the money side. So I tell everybody, write your dreams down, make them. They're not reality until you have them written down and you can sell them like a product. So you do want you want your business plan, you want your SWOT analysis if you need one. You need these specific items. Draw the plans up. Find the building. Do all that stuff.
So, for those of you that don't know, what's a business plan? Can you summarize it real briefly for people?
So I draw up a little different one. My business plan always starts out with values and goes from there. But generally, it's going to tell somebody that you're going to borrow money from, hopefully.
Or an investor.
Or an investor. Where you're headed with your company, what your idea is, what the market's like, also the problems that you foresee, the competition that you see, generalized plan of where you're headed and what your company's all about, how you plan to make money off of this so that somebody can trust to give you money.
Okay. So I love the idea of a business plan, and of course I was a business major, so I studied them and I've had to write them since then. But one of the things that I did when I was still an employee was, after I'd been a commercial lender for all of about 6 months, my immediate supervisor, the branch president, set his retirement. And he's like, I'm retiring in 3 months. So the president of the bank, not really scrambling, but starts looking for somebody to fill the role. I'm like, and I wanted the job, but I was not qualified for the job. They wanted somebody with a minimum of 5 to 7 years experience, experience with a whole bunch of stuff that I just hadn't even been exposed to. I'd only been a lender for 6 months. I applied for the job anyway. And the culture was such that the president interviewed every person that applied for the job internally.
Yeah.
So I think there were 6 of us that applied for the job. And, so I sat down over dinner with him and for an interview, essentially. And, he talked about the position and what was expected. And he really took it as an opportunity to coach me and say, hey, here's what we want to see from you in order to get there. But what he was most impressed about with what I did, and I think I might have been runner-up for the job actually because of this, is I took the time as an employee to write down a plan, essentially a business plan, for what I would do in that role and what I would do for that branch.
Sure.
If I were to be, and it wasn't long. It was 2 pages long, but I think I had like 16 some odd bullet points of, I want to change up this structure on the teller line. Right. This is how I'm going to handle the transition from the retiree to me, and I had a really in-depth plan for that, and then I had a marketing plan to go forward with it as well. So a lot of elements that you see in a business plan, I used that and applied it to my job.
I think that makes a lot of sense.
So
as long as that fucking story it better be good.
I might have it somewhere, but it was a long story.
I'm sorry. I'm just kidding.
But that illustrates the point of I was trying to take ownership of that position and use a business plan, essentially.
Yeah, and I think it makes a lot of sense, and people wouldn't think that as an employee that you could even bring that out. And I think that brings us to a really good point, Josh, that you have a lot of business experience with paperwork, and you've done a lot of that in the banking, and you've learned a lot outside of school, going to classes and whatnot. And I think that's important as an employee as well, to learn.
Oh yeah.
Keep learning as an entrepreneur as well. But
So.
that thing's flashing, dude.
Yeah, I think we better wrap it up so we keep these fairly short and don't talk for 3 hours.
All right, guys. Till the next time. Join us on Facebook at The Jobless Legion, or subscribe to our YouTube channel, and like, comment, and share.
So that we can get the message out to aspiring entrepreneurs just like you.
Thank you.